Hey everybody, I hope you guys are all doing safe. So you're watching main camera footage shot with the Xiaomi 13 Ultra. I'm in Beijing right now where I'm here to test this phone. So the Xiaomi 13 Ultra, I think a lot of you guys already know about this phone. It is an upgrade over the already excellent Xiaomi 13 Pro. So what's new? So both of these phones have the same Sony IMX989 main camera, that's that 1-inch sensor. But while this main camera is stuck at f1.9 aperture, the Ultra brings a variable aperture, meaning it has a physical shutter that will actually close or open to allow the camera to switch between different apertures. So the two options are f1.9 and f4. Now, unfortunately, unlike the Huawei P50 Pro, which also had a variable aperture, that phone had like 5 stops. Here, you only have 2 stops. But considering this is a much larger image sensor than on the Huawei P50 Pro, it makes a big difference if you jump from f1.9 to f4. Now, why would you want to switch between aperture? So aperture allows how much light a camera takes in and also determines the focus panes of how wide or narrow it is. With f1.9, it's considered wide open in smartphones at least, so you're taking in a lot of light, and also the focus pane is really shallow. That's why you get such natural depth of field around me right now. But if you switch to f4, you close the aperture a little bit, you take in a little bit less light, and the focus pane becomes much wider, so then the background becomes a little bit in better focus. Now, you might want to do this if you're shooting street photography and you want everything in focus instead of just singling out the subject. And also, you might want to switch down to f4 to control light intake, because one of the problems with the Oppo Find X6 Pro that I've been testing is that this main camera, also IMX989, takes in a little bit too much light. Sometimes shots just looks a little bit blown out, a little bit too bright. So with the Xiaomi 13 Ultra, what they're doing is, obviously software will try to fix a little bit of that, but they're giving you a physical shutter to close up a little bit to take in less light. So you guys surely know the drill, right? I'm going to test this camera, the 13 Ultra, against the Xiaomi 13 Pro and the Oppo Find X6 Pro. It's particularly going to be interesting to see how the zoom lenses here on the Ultra fare against the Oppo Find X6 Pro, because this phone has the largest image sensor still in a zoom lens. Still larger than the Xiaomi 13 Ultra, but the Xiaomi 13 Ultra has a faster aperture, so we'll see how that works. The thing that makes Beijing a little bit special is that the whole city is filled with these older, I don't know what's the official name of it, it's like these older Chinese architecture, and the entire alley is called Hutong, but I don't know what these buildings are exactly called. I'm gonna go across the street here to snap some 3x shots of this entrance. So what else is new with the Ultra other than the variable aperture of the main camera? The ultra-wide camera brings back almost the same hardware as the ultra-wide camera in the Xiaomi 13 Pro, but it has a faster f1.8 aperture. So that allows it to take in a little bit more light at night. It'll be interesting to see how it fares against the Oppo Find X6 Pro, which has the best ultra-wide camera so far from my testing, because it has a large 1/1.56 inch image sensor. The image sensor in the ultra wide is still nowhere near as large. It's like 1/2.5 inch. The portrait lens here, the 3.2 times portrait lens. Oh, let me see. The 3.2 times portrait lens, which I like so much on the Pro, also gets a slight upgrade, but also a step back. So it uses a new, larger sensor. This is a Sony IMX858 compared to the Samsung JN1 here. It has a larger image sensor of 1/2.5 inch compared to 1/2.7 inch here. What's completely new here, it's a 5x periscope zoom lens. It shoots at a focal length of 120mm, and it has the same Sony IMX858. Now this is a larger image sensor than the periscope zoom lens in the S23 Ultra or the Google Pixel 7 Pro, but it is still smaller than the image sensor in the Oppo Find X6 Pro. However, the Xiaomi 13 Ultra has a faster aperture. So it's going to be interesting to see how the zoom lens of the 13 Ultra compare against the Oppo Find X6 Pro at night. During the day, I'm pretty sure it's going to be, all three phones are going to be good. At night is where you will see the difference. Okay, so I've actually been testing this camera against the other two phones since yesterday night, and I've already snapped like 50-something photos. And just examining them on the phone screen and on the laptop yesterday, I can already see some immediate kind of traits. So first of all, when it comes to the main camera, The difference between f1.9 and f4.0 isn't that strong unless you are shooting in particular conditions where there's like a subject in the foreground and there's a separation between the subject and the background. As for the Ultra against the Oppo Find X6 Pro, I already thought the Xiaomi 13 Pro's main camera does a better job than the main camera here, so no surprise that I prefer the photos in the 13 Ultra over the Oppo Find X6 Pro's main camera too. I particularly like the contrast that Xiaomi gives images. Like in some of these shots, you can see the shadows are a little bit darker, a little bit more dramatic in the Xiaomi 13 Ultra shot compared to the Oppo Find X6 Pro. As for zoom photos, during the day it's pretty much neck and neck between these two phones. I would give the slight edge to the Oppo Find X6 Pro because it still does have a larger image sensor, but at night I have to give the win to the Xiaomi 13 Ultra, particularly for longer zooms like 10x, because the Oppo Find X6 Pro just has this bad habit of over sharpening. Particularly in this shot here of this dude just kind of squatting in the middle of the street checking his phone. You'll see that in the Oppo Find X6 Pro, if you actually zoom in the pixel peak, it's quite noisy and also looks a little bit over sharpened compared to the Xiaomi 13 Pro's more natural image. Alright, let's test the zoom of the Ultra. So it's 3.x, so it's 3.4x, 5.6x, maximum 15. Okay, it is 6 a.m. and I'm still editing the video that you're watching right now. But there's one more thing to talk about because I didn't get this until very late into the production. But this is a Xiaomi 13 Ultra photography kit. So what this is a case that you snap on to the Xiaomi 13 Ultra. Now this set sells in China for 799 Chinese yuan, so it's a little bit over 100 US dollars. I don't know if this will sell globally. There's this additional camera grip that you slide onto the end and then you lock the grip. Now this thing is sturdy. Now you have a camera grip, but that's not all. There's also a dedicated shutter button and a zoom dial. And it actually works. If I long press on the button once, the camera app opens up. If I half press on the shutter button, you'll see a little yellow box on the camera viewfinder that shows where it's focusing. And if I want to snap a picture, I press fully on the shutter button. And the zoom dial allows me to zoom in and out. So I can hold on to the dial to do a smooth zoom, or I can kind of hit the dial one at a time to cycle through the 4 zoom focal lengths. That's not all. There's also a lens cap that you can put on to protect the camera module, and even a filter thread. So if you have an ND filter, 67mm thread, you can put on an ND filter. More control over how much light you take into your shot. So ultimately, I think you see where Xiaomi is going with the 13 Ultra. It is really leaning heavily into making a phone that is almost as much a camera as it is a phone. Now, obviously, dedicated photographers out there are still going to scoff and say, it's still not going to be better than a real camera. Why don't I just carry a real camera? I mean, yeah, a real camera is still better, but do you know how big and heavy a real camera can be? It's at least 3 pounds just for the body. And even if you buy a very affordable camera body, it's like $2,500 without the lens. So yeah, when you guys are saying you might as well bring a real camera, you're talking about a 3 pound thing that costs at least 2,500 US dollars and can't fit into your pocket. So to me, like, that's something nice to have, but it's completely out of the equation for someone who just wants to go about the day and immediately have something on them that can snap really good photography. And I think the Xiaomi 13 Ultra can do that. Now, to be fair, is this phone heads and shoulders above like the Oppo Find X6 Pro or the Xiaomi 13 Pro? Not really. I think the Oppo Find X6 Pro still is a really, really awesome camera. And I think during the day, it's 3 times photo, and ultra-wide photo may still be better than the Xiaomi 13 Ultra. But the Xiaomi 13 Ultra overall is a more polished system. It has a better main camera. I like its color science a little bit better. And at night, it's 3x and 10x zoom photos are a little bit more to my liking. But of course, this is still early days of testing. This phone is so new that it hasn't gotten any software update yet, while my Oppo Find X6 Pro has already gotten 3 software updates. So maybe in another week, when more firmware updates kick in, this software will improve photos a little bit more. But as of right now, this is already a lot more polished than the Xiaomi 12S Ultra was out of the box. And if you're wondering if you should upgrade to the 13 Ultra if you already have the 13 Pro, it really depends. If you have the money to spend, then sure, why not? But if money's a little bit tight and you just splurge on the 13 Pro, I don't think you need to, because the Xiaomi 13 Pro's main camera is almost as good as its main camera, except for not having the variable aperture, which doesn't really come in handy that often. I would say is a niche shooting condition. The portrait lens is not as good as this portrait lens technically, but then that portrait lens can do macro photography. This one cannot. And as for the ultra wide camera, this one is a little bit better in low light situations, but again, the difference isn't that huge. So it really comes down to that 5x periscope zoom lens, which again, at the 5x level, it's not that big of a difference. It only matters when you do 10x zoom and beyond. Now, of course, we don't know the global pricing of this phone. Given that the Xiaomi 13 Pro is selling in Europe for 1,300 euro, there's a good chance this thing will be like 1,500 euro in Europe. In China, this thing starts at 7,000 yuan, which is only about 859 US dollars. So that's a very good price for people in China. And again, for the rest of us in the Asia region, you can import this thing at maybe like 950 bucks, 1,000 US dollars. And I think that's a pretty good price to get a phone with absolute cutting edge hardware. I haven't even talked about a lot of the other stuff yet, like the fact that the storage can get up to 1 terabyte, or that the screen's maximum brightness is 2600 nits, so it's the new brightest display on the market. There's a lot to talk about. This video is just a camera test. I'm gonna come back with a full review and then maybe a little bit more like a day in the life vlog with this phone over the next few days. So if you're interested in learning more about this phone, please consider subscribing to my channel and follow me on Instagram at Ben's Gadget Reviews. I will be uploading a lot of photo samples there throughout the next several days. I mean, probably the next several weeks. I'm going to be using this phone as my daily driver going forward until the next thing that tops it, and who knows what they may be. Although I am getting the Huawei Mate X3 pretty soon, so I'm pretty excited about that phone too. But I know that camera is not going to beat this camera, but that's a foldable phone, so it's a whole different category. But that's it for now. I really need to finish this video so I can get a couple hours of sleep because I've been working all night. Thanks for watching.